Hey everybody, welcome back to Touchy Reactions. Sabaton Army, we got another good one for you today. We're going to be checking out Carolus Rex, I believe is how you pronounce it. At least that's how I pronounce it right now. I'm sure you guys will correct me if I'm wrong. Carolus Rex. This might be a long video, so for those of you who don't like long videos, you should check the number before you clicked on it. But anyway, because today we got two sets of lyric videos we're going to be going through. We're going to be watching the English version lyric video, and then we're going to watch the Swedish version lyric video. And then we're going to check out the live from Stockholm, Sweden. And we're going to, after that, we'll finish it up with the history lesson on Sabaton history. So, because it's so long, let's not waste too much time. If you're liking these videos, hit the like down below. If you feel like you want to see more, subscribe down here in the corner, big red button, right about over here, down there somewhere. And if you want to help contribute to the channel and help us grow more, there's a Patreon link up here in the corner. You can go over to my Patreon, join up, and you'll get access to early content and that kind of stuff. So let's not waste any more time. We're starting the journey into Carolus Rex from Sabaton. Still not quite sure who Carolus is, but
Said in heaven, so it shall be
All right, I've been waiting to pause for a spot there. So, first thing I got to say about the song is the drums and the guitars are just awesome on this song. And I think some of the lyrics here are a little awkward, but I think this song was originally written as a Swedish song, so sometimes the translation can be a little awkward when it translates over. Also, I'm not sure who Carolus is. That's not something I believe I was ever taught over here in the States. I'm not sure if it's common history lessons over in Europe, but I'm still not even quite sure which country we're talking about and which ruler we're talking about. But as we all know, by the end of this video, I should know all that stuff by getting tuned in by the history guys and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to continue and enjoy the music. I'm going to follow the lyrics and make sure it all comes together in the end. That's the first key change I think I've ever seen in a Sabaton song. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention. All right. So that was the English version. Let's jump over and check out the Swedish version and see how it differs, if it does. It does have the English translation on it. So we'll make that big, and here we go. I have resolved never to start an unjust war, but never to end a legitimate one except by defeating my enemies. King Charles I want to go 12th of Sweden, 1682 to 1718. Now, is this song about King Charles? Is Carolus the way you say Charles in Swedish? Maybe that's the case. We'll find out. Sorry, I missed something there. I gotta go back. Cannons are firing. Salute. Okay, so he's being coronated and cannons are firing. Sorry, I missed that first time around. He and his he and his horse look very fancy in this painting. Very fancy.
Bevisat med styrka genom strid. Född att regera, föra krig, svär. Min vilja sker. Över Norden jag härskar. Med det arv som jag gav. Upp på gång. Från Carolus Rex. En gång. Ifrån ska vi härskar.
All right. Oh, I almost want to do the history first before the live, because no one wants to hear the song played 3 times in a row. So let's jump over and watch the history real quick, and then we'll close out the video with the live after we know what the song's about. Yeah, it is what it is. It's going to happen. Get over it. You'll be all right. All right. So here's the Carolus Rex, Charles the 12th of Sweden, Sabaton history, 84. Here we go.
Inspired an album, actually 2. The king who inspired 2 albums, Carolus Rex.
Carolus.
All embrace me. It's my time to rule at last. 15 years have I been waiting to sit up on my throne.
The history of Sweden is in many ways the story of her kings. Since the founding of the modern Swedish kingdom, with the reign of Gustav Vasa and his magnificent beard, the course was set by the will of the monarchy. Breaking free of the shackles of the mighty Denmark, Swedish kings subsequently sought to enlarge Swedish might, with dreams of a new Scandinavian empire, a Dominium Maris Baltici, in the north of Europe and across the Baltic Sea. Sweden realized its imperial dreams and expanded its borders towards Estonia and Livonia, and established a strong Swedish presence on the northern coastline. This, of course, attracted the attention of equally ambitious neighbors. And as it always was with the dreams of mighty dynasties and noble houses, their ambitions were soon accompanied by conflict, competition, and war. Each Swedish king inherited the enemies and animosities of the past. Sweden had already crossed swords with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and with Russia, but it would be King Gustavus Adolphus' involvement in the 30 Years' War that set the empire on what would be a downward spiral in the long run. Although he would be the lion from the north, the savior and champion of Protestantism, his religious crusade had reshackled Sweden to a foreign cause, this time to that of German kings and dukes. With her commitment to the war in the Holy Roman Empire, Sweden missed her historical chance to build an empire on the Neva, and instead made powerful enemies. Denmark, Poland, Russia, Saxony, and Brandenburg were all soon eyeing Swedish expansion with increasing suspicion, waiting for a chance to pounce. Sweden's historical weakness was her place on the map, and the overseas possessions outside of Scandinavia were a nearly impossible task to defend. Sweden could field a mighty modern army, sure, but its population was small and the economy was reliant on highly competitive maritime trade, so Sweden was vulnerable. One political misstep, one fatal defeat on the battlefield, and the empire could be shaken apart. In many ways, it was a colossus on feet of clay. The second half of the 17th century brought these weaknesses to light. As Sweden's enemies backed her into a corner, more and more the nation had to rely on the wisdom and the courage of its kings and the strength of its armies to keep it alive. Notably King Charles XI, Karl den Elfte, who through ruthless land reclamation laws revitalized the country, rebuilt the army, and established a military caste that was deeply loyal to the king. With tireless ambition, he saved Sweden from the brink of collapse, but in doing so, he allowed Sweden's monarchy to become one of the most absolute in all of Europe. On June 17, 1682, his heir was born, named after his father, the young...
Man, that is one ugly family. Let me just... Woo! Man, it looks like some inbreeding going on in there. Woo! That's an ugly family.
1682, his heir was born, Named after his father, the young Prince Carl soon proved himself to be a child full of promise and potential. His strong, stubborn character both impressed and unnerved those around him. It was said that once Carl made a promise to himself or to others, he would never stray from fulfilling it. If he was set to a task, it was nearly impossible to dissuade him from achieving his goal. Carl's father had lived a Spartan life, one that his son would imitate. The king had rejected every sort of luxury and regarded sloth and frivolity as the greatest sins a man could have. He taught his prince to be a merciless lion to his enemy and a generous lamb to his own people. But it would be Carl's mother, Ulrika Leonora, who taught her son the values of honor, piety, and charity. Although he would be a king to his people one day, in front of God he was just a simple man, a sinner like everyone else. Carl is said to have prayed at least twice a day and never missed religious service in his life, even in the field. In a way, King Carl XI was to his son what Philip II of Macedon had been to Alexander the Great. He left his prince a strong and stable state, a full treasury, and a mighty army. Carl XI died in 1697 of stomach cancer, and young Carl, just 15 years old, ascended to the throne as Karl den Tolfte, Carl XII. Historians do debate whether he was too young for the throne, for like most 15-year-olds, he was adventurous and impatient. Once he rode through Stockholm at breakneck speed, smashing every window with his sword. Would a few more years of guidance by his father have helped him become a better statesman? Still, the many schemers and foreign diplomats who sought to exploit the boy king for their own advantage were soon to be deeply disappointed. Carl stared them down with an inscrutable poker face, betraying no sign of weakness or insecurity. His naturally frigid temperament and his taciturnity were his best shield in the first months of his reign. But despite his youth, Carl had clear ideas about how to run the show. Unlike other kings before him, the estates had to swear their oath of allegiance to him not after, but before his coronation. Carl would not ask for their obedience, nor would he make any concessions to his rule. His authority was to be absolute, and not linked to obligations or promises to those who were subjugated to him by natural order. On the day of his coronation, he ordered the members of the parliament to walk on foot towards the ceremony. Only he, the soon-to-be king, clad in full royal regalia, was to be welcomed by the church on horseback. Inside the sanctuary, Carl climbed a high throne, draped in golden cloth and scarlet damask, and took his seat on a chair of silver. By the grace of God, he was anointed king, Carolus Rex. After the sermon, he knelt in silent prayer. He would answer to God, as his mother had taught him, but on this earth, no one was his superior. So he took over the burdens and responsibilities of the kingdom in God's name and would lead as he saw fit. And absolute his reign would be. Carl would enter parliament and interrupt whenever he liked. When he was present, others were only allowed to speak in whispers, and Carl had no qualms about openly reprimanding his chancellor. If it came to his ears that someone had refused his commands or spoken ill of his reign, his ire could be merciless. Even from the farthest corners of the country, dissidents were dragged back to Stockholm in chains, and if found guilty, were sentenced to life in prison or the firing squad.
Hear my orders, question me and die. What I say was said in heaven, and so it shall be done.
It seemed like Sweden was in for a rough ride, with absolute power manifesting in the hands of the boy king, who was not particularly fond of opposition. But despite his harsh demeanor, Carl was not the evil tyrant that he is often portrayed as. Quite the contrary. His character had a humane side, one in line with the ideals of enlightenment. He forbade torture and vowed to judge those around him based on personal merit. He demanded that every Swede do his duty to the state, but every bit of hardship beyond that was forbidden. Carl treated those loyal to him with a hearty respect and valued their commitment to him with benevolence and rewarding gratitude. The first year of his reign had a sobering effect on the young king. Karl, who had romanticized the duties of the monarchy, grew tired of the endless line of ambassadors and ministers constantly pleading for his judgment. The domestic, peaceful life of everyday state affairs had no appeal to him, and while he cared deeply for the well-being of his mother and sister, he otherwise did not seek the company of women. Instead, Karl sought adventure, danger, and hardship. He was a born soldier and dreamed of greatness, of the glory that his ancestors had brought to Sweden, and of a chance to prove himself. At the turn of the 18th century, the dark clouds of war once more gathered over Europe.
Oh, I'm having a hard time liking this guy. Not the historian, obviously. Carolus Rex. Simple for several reasons. I don't believe that monarchy should be a thing. I don't think that anyone is born with some greatness that was passed down through their family lineage. Not a big fan of monarchies. Also, if you haven't figured it out by now on this channel, I'm not really a religious guy. So someone who walks around saying that you need to listen to me because God told me to, this is how it's going to be, seems like someone who's either A, delusional, or B, just, what's the word, taking advantage of lesser folks by using God as their weapon. And I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to like this guy or not, but it's these are my biases myself. I'll continue to watch. Oh, the last thing, and which caused me to pause here, is they just talked about how he's a young man who's a natural soldier and wants to prove himself in battle. So yeah, great. That just means he's going to take his whole country to war. Is that, and put all these lives at risk so that he can prove himself to everybody that he's a big bad guy. I also hate leaders who get their peoples killed in wars while they're playing their macho game of who's got the, who's the toughest guy on the block. So they're out there killing their own people in wars that, may have been resolved without conflict. I don't know. Feeling a little weird on this one.
In the south, dynasties were arming themselves for the coming Spanish War of Succession. In the north, the old enemy Denmark was forging alliances with Poland and Russia, preparing to invade Holstein. Wherever Sweden turned, it would find enemies to fight, and Karl eyed Europe with the impatient gaze of a hungry lion. War was an opportunity for Sweden to return to greatness by rightful conquest. In February 1700, Saxon troops marched into Livonia. The Danes invaded Holstein, and Russia set its sights on the Baltic provinces. What would be called the Great Northern War began. Karl heard of the news during a bear hunt. At once he returned to Stockholm, entered the parliament, and declared, "I have resolved never to begin an unrighteous war, but I have also resolved never to finish a righteous war until I have utterly crushed my enemies."
I like that quote. That's a good quote. So, definitely we don't want people out there beginning wars for bad reasons. My country's done that a couple of times, as a matter of fact. Those weapons of mass destruction still haven't shown up over in Iraq. And you could argue that the situation over in the Middle East is may or may not be worse now than it was before. So I'm not without my own criticism of my own government. So.
With these words, Carolus Rex set out to fight his enemies and decide Sweden's future on the battlefield. The young king, absolute in his power, was to confront a coalition of enemies. His army was one of the best in Europe, a deadly tool in the hands of a skillful commander. But to safeguard the Swedish Empire, it was not enough for Karl to win a battle or two. He had to improve Sweden's strategic position, or it would be all for naught. With this in mind, he crossed the Sound like his personal Rubicon. There would be no turning back.
I will say, I do respect that he was out on the battlefield with his men, if that was the case. I know these paintings depict it that way. Too many times you see the leaders of countries either sitting back in their offices giving orders or sitting in the background up on a hill while the battle's going on. But if he was down there trading blows with the enemy, I respect that. There should be more of that. If we're going to fight going forward, let's put those leaders out there in the front, and then maybe they'll change their mind about what they're trying to have people do.
Now, Per, you said he inspired 2 albums.
Yes, because the Carolus Rex album is available in English and Swedish.
Aha. See. So it is 2 albums. And now, something I got to ask you. You are a Swede, and I am actually now a Swedish dual citizenship. So I'm a Swede as well, but I didn't grow up there.
Ta-da!
Yeah, hey, thank you. Can you tell them what Carolus Rex means to Swedes? Because many of the South American or Asian people might not have any idea.
Yeah, and it actually is quite difficult every time I explain it because it doesn't make much sense. But okay, Carolus Rex is a Swedish king.
Yep.
Who was involved in the Swedish Empire time in history.
As we've seen.
And he is the lead figure of our album Carolus Rex,
Yeah.
of course. But he's considered a very controversial character in Sweden, not because of what he historically did, but what he has become
Right.
in later times, when he has become a symbol of sort of neo-Nazism and right-wing extremists.
And hyper-nationalism.
Yeah. And this doesn't go very well because obviously neo-Nazism was not invented in the 17th century.
Yeah.
And also the king of Carolus Rex was quite multicultural and this. So it's a bit controversial how it went down.
Yeah.
And this resulted in when we presented the idea, we're going to do an album about Carolus Rex. People immediately start to think, oh, you're going to do a neo-Nazi album. No, we're going to do a historical album about a king of the
You're gonna
17th
do a
century
neo-Nazi album.
in Sweden.
Yeah.
But there were people who warned us, do not do this.
Yeah.
It's gonna ruin your career because you're gonna be considered the neo-Nazis and you're gonna be considered fascists and you're gonna be considered all kind of things. And we said, we will do it because we are Sabaton and we sing about historical facts, and this is historical about a Swedish king in the 17th century. And we have nothing to do with it was not us who decided that he's gonna be a symbol of right wing in 300 years after his death.
I wonder how you would actually feel about that. But it's interesting you say that, because when I started working with you, when we started talking about stuff a couple of years ago, I have a friend from Griksbo up in Dalarna, and he said, "You sure you want to work with the Sabaton guys?" I'm like, "Yeah, I met you guys. You're cool guys." And then I knew the songs and the history. It's like, you know, it's supposed to be like have some connections with like neo-Nazi stuff, and I said no, they don't. Again, and it is definitely is 100% because of Carolus Rex, and also because you released a version in Swedish as well, you know?
Which adds to the whole thing of nationalism and these things, and it's easy to be do it in a conspiracy thinking that Sabaton is doing this in order to I don't know what all kind of people do, but it was pretty interesting. So when we released the album, we had a lot of that people were going mental about it.
Yeah.
There were people who shouting, "I'm never gonna listen to this fascist band again," and things like that. And we were expecting some things like this to happen, and but there was a few moments when we actually like enjoy this attention as well. I remember there's an interview with a Swedish journalist who came with an agenda only to destroy Sabaton.
Okay.
And he faced a very angry Joachim.
Yeah.
And he comes with accusations that has nothing to do with Sabaton at all.
Okay.
And the journalist comes without having any knowledge. He's as educated as a person, I don't know, who spent zero, who never went to a historical class.
Well, why would
facing Joachim and
yeah.
in this and accusing Joachim, and Joachim destroyed him so much that this article was never, you couldn't publish it. The journalist was so embarrassed about it and had no more ammunition. And it's kind of us spending at this time 10 years singing about history of wars and stuff, and then you come and try to accuse us of having an agenda or something like that. when we are in that mood,
Yeah.
we have quite a lot of experience of talking.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of interviews. In a regular year, I would do 400 interviews.
Yeah.
So if you come and you try to come and lecture me of what we can and cannot do in terms of Sabaton,
Yeah.
we have the ammunition to really, we don't need to, but if
It's
if
there.
you come with that approach to us, we have the ammunition to take out. And if you challenge us on our battlefield, you're gonna go down a very bad lane, that's for sure.
I can
Hell
picture
yeah.
like that journalist not realizing that. Like I can see angry Joachim. Let's get a picture of Joachim. Okay, look at Joachim. Can you picture him angry and it's like a bear, and the journalist is like going poking him with a stick and stuff just to see what happens. But how can you not prepare for an interview? Like if you're the journalist going to talk to you guys about it, how could he not have done? That's what journalists are supposed to do: is
Yeah.
research the topic before talking to the person they're interviewing, so they know what they're talking about.
In this case, he was prepared in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Not by any historical facts,
Oh, yeah,
but
sure.
by only the angle
Yeah.
of that you have just done something that should be racist.
Right.
And,
According to these people, it should be racist.
Yeah.
If you are a journalist in the future and you're going to be interviewing the guys in Sabaton, particularly about historical events, you may want to do a little research ahead of time so you know something about those historical events and can put them into a relevant context when you're talking to these guys that spend their entire life writing about those things and learning about those things. So keep that in mind for future episodes of Sabaton History.
Say my name when you pray to the
He got all the praise.
Thank you everybody for watching, and thank you everybody for supporting. And those who don't do it, click the bell, subscribe, and become a patron. Thank you very much.
All right. Got a little teaser for some live there. Now we're going to finish up this video by checking out some live. And this is going to be in Stockholm, Sweden. So I'm guessing this crowd's really going to like this song since it's about Swedish history. Let's check it out. This is Carolus Rex by Sabaton live in Stockholm. I do love that some of these videos give us the perspective of what it's like to be up on stage. You never see that with other bands. This is the band's eye view of what goes on when they're on stage. It's very cool. All right, I've seen the lyrics twice now, so I don't need to see the lyrics. If I'm being honest, this song feels like it has a lot of low energy right here in this concert, and I thought maybe this would be a high energy song for this crowd. Maybe I'm just not catching on to something. I do like the cellos and the drummer. That's something I'd not seen before in a Sabaton video. This guy dressed up like Joaquin. Is that how you say it? Joaquin? Joaquin. I mean, this part right here has high energy, but the rest of it feels like everybody's just very somber. All right, that's Carolus Rex, Charles the 12th of Sweden, and how he came to power and proved himself in the wars, defending and protecting and expanding Sweden. Very cool. If I'm being honest, the music in this song was great. I'm not sure I'm fond of the subject matter. Again, I went over that already about just kind of, I always get weary when I see people trying to prove themselves by getting other people's killed in wars that they may or may not have needed to be in. So maybe all these wars were justified, and I just don't know what I'm talking about. So again, we don't get this history taught over here. I'm sure it's a day one history class for you guys over in Sweden and maybe Europe, but we just don't get this taught over here for obvious reasons. I mean, we're busy with all of our just wonderful history of our country that is flawless with no black marks whatsoever, because we've never done anything wrong over here, and this is sarcasm if you can't tell. Anyway, I like the song though. Golly, the guitars and drums were great. It's a hell of a rock song, and if you can separate the in my case, if I could separate the message from the music, I'll definitely be listening to it some more. So anyway, enough rambling. If you like the video, give me a like down below here. It really helps the channel. It turns up that YouTube algorithm, spits it out to more people around the world and lets them check out my stuff. If you want to continue on the journey, I've got lots of Sabaton stuff on this channel. I think I'm up to like 20 or so songs already on my Sabaton playlist. So if you're about to recommend something to me to go watch, check out my playlist real quick and see if I've done it already. I've done quite a few of the popular ones that people have been asking for. If you haven't seen me do something that you'd like me to see, mention it down in the comments, and I will certainly put it on the list. Can't say I'll get to it right away. The list is huge, but we will get to it eventually. The list is there for me to pull from when I need stuff to react to. Like I say, if you do want to stay around for the whole ride, hit that subscribe button, the red button down below. It'll turn gray, and then you'll know you're good to go. If you hit that notification bell, your YouTube will let you know anytime I drop some new content. I normally drop Sabaton stuff definitely on Sundays, and because the list is so long, I sprinkle them in throughout the week as well. The Sabaton Army is great about watching my stuff, commenting on my stuff, giving me the likes, giving me the subscribes, everything that a YouTuber really wants. And it's great music to listen to. It would really suck if I was reacting to stuff that was terrible. And that's where all the fandom was coming from. So I'm glad that Sabaton has good music. If you'd like to support the channel financially, there's a Patreon link up here in the corner of the screen. If you click on that, it'll take you over to my Patreon. Over on Patreon, we have content that's edited and ready to go to YouTube that hasn't been released yet. I'm trying to get up to about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of what's out on YouTube so that folks on Patreon will have about 2 to 3 weeks worth of content that they can watch that's not been released yet. I also kind of use that as a screening program. If somebody sees something in one of my videos over there and they tell me it's something I need to fix, I can jump back in and fix it before it goes onto YouTube. There's also content that's not available on YouTube over there. We also do polls, you know, what would you like me to react to next kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, join the Patreon and you can help support the channel. We really appreciate it over here. I'm going to be, you know, buying new lights, buying new equipment, buying new cameras, that kind of stuff to make the quality of these videos better, even editing software, that kind of stuff. So that's where the money goes. I'm not out there, you know, buying drugs or doing bad stuff with the money. I'm just trying to make the channel better. So that's all I got for today. I hope you guys liked the video. This one was kind of long because of the 2 lyric videos, but you guys have shown that you support the long videos and you'll stay around to the end. So if you made it this far into the video and you want me to know that you watched all the way into the end, down in the comments section, make sure you include the word Batman in your comment. If you say Batman in the comment, I'll know that you stuck around all the way to the very end of the video, and I'll hit you up in the comment section. Thank you for doing that. So everybody who's here, appreciate you stopping by, and please don't forget to come on back.